she's this 12-year-old little girl still in my mind. How this was just a temporary move. How suddenly is this permanent? She's a baby. She's like 19 years old, and
It started quietly, without a flashy announcement or scripted moment. Just Christine sitting in her living room, eyes slightly red. The kind of calm that only comes after days of holding back tears. The camera flickered for a moment before she said softly, "I just need to talk to you all." That was it. The beginning of something no one was ready for. Fans who had followed her journey through years of laughter, betrayal, and resilience could feel that this wasn't another Sister Wives promo or casual Q&A. This was personal. Christine's voice trembled, but not from weakness. It was the kind of tremor that carries both heartbreak and peace, the sound of someone who has finally accepted the truth. She started by thanking her fans for standing by her through what she called the most transformative chapter of her life. But as she spoke, it became clear that this wasn't just gratitude. It was a confession. Christine talked about how fame had brought her love and community, but had also chained her to a narrative that wasn't fully hers. "People think they know us because they've seen us for years," she said. "But what happens off camera? The silence, the guilt, the forgiveness. That's where the real story lives." Her words hung in the air, gentle yet heavy. The chat flooded instantly with hearts and messages, but Christine kept her focus on the lens, like she was speaking to just one person at a time. "I thought that if I kept smiling, if I kept showing strength, I'd eventually start to believe it," she admitted. But strength doesn't always mean pretending. Sometimes it means breaking down and letting people see who you are when you've got nothing left to hide. There was a pause, a long, fragile moment. She blinked a few times, smiled faintly, and said, "I'm okay, but I wasn't for a long time." That sentence alone would go viral later, clipped and shared millions of times by fans who saw themselves in her vulnerability. Christine began reflecting on what it meant to love someone and lose them while millions watched. "The cameras caught so much," she whispered, "but they never caught the quiet moments after the fight. The prayers I said for peace, or the nights I'd sit awake, wondering what more I could have done." It was raw, painfully real, and it silenced every rumor thread on social media instantly. The Christine fans saw that night wasn't the polished, confident woman from the reunion episodes. It was the woman behind her, stripped of armor, holding truth in her hands like something sacred. Then, as her tone softened, she said something that would define the rest of the message. "You can't heal in the same place that hurt you." Those 9 words hit harder than any public statement she'd made since her separation. They weren't just about Kody or Robyn. They were about freedom, forgiveness, and finally stepping into a life that was fully hers. Christine confessed that walking away had been both the hardest and most necessary thing she'd ever done. "I wanted to keep the family together," she said, "but I realized I was the only one still trying." Her voice broke slightly, and for the first time, she looked away from the camera, trying to compose herself. "It's strange," she said softly, "how love can turn into duty, and duty can turn into silence." She wasn't blaming anyone, she was simply acknowledging what millions of people understand but rarely say out loud. Sometimes love fades, and sometimes peace demands distance. The message wasn't rehearsed, and that's what made it powerful. She wasn't trying to protect a brand or rewrite a story. She was just being Christine, the same woman who had once laughed through tears and believed that faith could fix anything. But this Christine had learned that sometimes letting go is faith. She ended the first part of her message by saying, "To everyone who sent me messages, who prayed for me, who reminded me that I still mattered. Thank you. I read your words on nights when I felt invisible. You helped me remember that I was still here, still me, even when I didn't recognize myself anymore." The comments poured in. Thousands of them. "We love you, Christine. You saved yourself. We're proud of you." She smiled again. but this time, it was different. It was the smile of someone who'd stopped performing and started living. Before signing off for the night, she promised to return tomorrow with the rest of her message. The truth I've never told before. Christine returned the next evening, just as she promised. This time, there was no makeup, no perfectly arranged background, just her, a cup of tea, and a quiet determination in her eyes. "I didn't sleep much last night," she began, her tone low and thoughtful. "I kept thinking about everything I said and everything I didn't." She paused for a moment, then leaned a little closer to the camera. "There's a difference between moving on and healing," she said, "and for a long time I told myself I had done both, but I hadn't." The comment section filled instantly, thousands of fans typing words of support and curiosity, sensing that what was coming next would reveal more than ever before. Christine sighed, took a breath, and continued. "When you're part of something like Sister Wives, you learn how to perform emotions. You smile through tension. You talk about forgiveness while your heart is breaking. And sometimes, you stop knowing what's real. I lost myself in that." Her voice quivered slightly, but she didn't look away. People think reality television shows everything, but it doesn't. It shows what fits, what sells, what keeps the narrative alive. But what happens when your pain doesn't fit the story they want to tell? The camera caught the faint glimmer of a tear before she wiped it away. "There were moments I wanted to quit years before I actually did. Moments where I would look at everyone and think, this isn't love anymore, it's survival. But then I'd think about the kids, the fans, the hope that maybe it could still be fixed." She looked down, then back up with a tired smile. "Hope can be a beautiful thing, but it can also trap you." Her tone softened. "I remember sitting with the producers one night, right after a fight that didn't make it to air. They asked me if I was okay, and I said, of course I'm fine. But I wasn't. I just didn't know how to stop being fine." Her voice cracked again, and she laughed softly through it. "You can only fake strength for so long before your soul gets tired of pretending." Fans watching that live stream were completely silent in the comments. Almost reverent, no one wanted to interrupt her truth. "You know what really broke me?" Christine asked, her tone almost whispering now. "It wasn't betrayal or jealousy. It was realizing that I'd built a life where my happiness depended on someone else's approval. I kept asking myself if I was enough, if I deserved peace. And one night, I finally asked, why am I asking permission to be happy?" Her eyes shined with tears, but her expression was calm. That was the night everything changed. The night I decided I didn't need to stay to prove I was strong. I needed to leave to remember I was human. She smiled faintly. "When you spend years being told what a perfect wife looks like, what a perfect family should be, you start confusing endurance for love. I did that for too long. I thought staying meant I was loyal, but all it meant was that I was afraid." She looked off to the side for a moment, then back to the camera. "When I finally said I was leaving, there was silence. I thought there would be shouting or guilt or begging, but there wasn't just silence. And in that silence, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. My own heart." Her words carried a weight that pulled everyone watching closer. That silence was my answer. I wasn't crazy, or selfish, or dramatic. I was done. Christine leaned back, letting out a deep breath. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was falling apart. I felt like I was coming home to myself. The comment section exploded with love. "You're inspiring us all," one said. "This is what real healing looks like," wrote another. Christine smiled as if she could feel every word. "When I walked away, I didn't know what my life would look like. I just knew I couldn't keep living a lie." She looked down for a moment, lost in thought. "And I want to tell you something I've never said before," she added softly. Leaving wasn't about running away. It was about finally stopping the cycle of pretending everything was fine. Her tone shifted slightly, filled with strength now. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your pain. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply choose yourself. She nodded slowly, tears forming again, but this time from pride, not sadness. If my story can help just one person realize they deserve peace, then maybe everything I went through was worth it. The fans flooded the chat with heart emojis and words like powerful, thank you, and we're proud of you. Christine smiled warmly, wiping her cheek. Tomorrow, she said quietly, I'll tell you what really happened after I left, the part no one saw. She ended the live, and the screen faded to black. But the internet didn't rest that night. Undefined clips from her message spread like wildfire across social media. Undefined Christine Brown's quiet truth had just become the loudest statement she'd ever made. When Christine went live the next night, more than 500,000 people were already waiting. The comment feed moved so fast it was almost unreadable. She looked calmer this time, though the weight of what she was about to say lingered in her eyes. Yesterday, I told you about leaving. She began tonight. I want to tell you about what came after, because walking away is only the beginning. She gave a faint smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You think freedom will feel light, that the moment you close the door, everything broken inside you will just stop hurting. But the truth is, when I left, I didn't feel free. I felt empty. She looked off to the side, as if remembering something far away. The cameras stopped calling, the messages from producers turned from constant to quiet, and suddenly I was alone with myself. I had to act, without the family, without the noise. She laughed softly, the kind that carried both relief and pain. And you know what? I didn't have an answer, because for years I was everyone's something. Someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's cast member. But never just Christine. The comment section slowed down. People were listening. Really listening. There's this strange silence when you leave a life that defined you. She continued. I'd go to the grocery store, and people would stop me. Some would hug me, some would cry, and some would say, "You were my favorite." And I'd smile. But part of me wanted to ask them, "Do you even know who I am?" Because for so long, I didn't. She paused to take a sip of water, her hand trembling slightly. But slowly, something shifted. The quiet started to feel peaceful. I started hearing my own thoughts again. I started making choices that didn't have to be approved by anyone else. And it was beautiful. She smiled now, genuinely. I took my kids to a park one day. No cameras, no schedules, no producers. Just us. And my daughter looked at me and said, "Mom, you're smiling different." That's when I realized I hadn't been truly happy in years. I was performing happiness, not living it, because it reminded me that healing doesn't come all at once. It comes in small, quiet victories. She leaned closer, her expression serious now. But healing doesn't erase pain. It doesn't rewrite the past. And there were nights I sat awake, questioning if I made the right choice. There were whispers online, headlines twisting my story. People saying I'd betrayed the family, that I was selfish. She took a long breath. But if wanting peace makes you selfish, then maybe we all need to be a little selfish sometimes. Her tone carried a fire now. Quiet, controlled, but undeniable. I want to say something directly to the people who called me a quitter. You don't quit love when it's real. You quit pretending when it's not. The live chat erupted with applause emojis and cheers. Christine looked down, holding back tears. That was the hardest truth I had to face, she said softly. That sometimes love changes, sometimes it ends. And that's okay. It doesn't mean it was a mistake. It means it ran its course. She gave a shaky smile. But I'll tell you what hurt the most. It wasn't leaving. It was realizing how many people didn't want me to leave because they needed my pain to keep their story alive. Her eyes glistened under the soft light. That's what reality television does. It feeds on pain, and I had to stop feeding it. Christine let the silence hang for a moment before continuing. I don't regret leaving, but I do wish I'd loved myself sooner. I wish I'd told that younger version of me that she didn't need to earn love by being quiet, by being agreeable, by being less. She smiled through tears. Because she was always enough. The comments were full of people typing, "You are enough. We love you and thank you for saying this." Christine nodded slowly, as if responding to them all. "You know what the best part is?" she asked. Her voice light again. "Every morning now, I wake up and there's no chaos, no scripts. Just peace, and I never realized how beautiful peace sounds until I finally heard it." She leaned in slightly, her tone intimate now. "People keep asking me if I'll ever go back to the show, to that life. And I'll tell you what I told the producers when they called me last month." She smiled faintly. "I'm done telling stories that aren't mine to tell. From now on, I'm writing my own." The comment section exploded with applause emojis, hearts, and cheers. Christine wiped her tears, whispering, "Thank you for listening, for letting me be human." She ended the live stream there. But that night, social media lit up. Fans reposted clips with captions like "Christine finally tells the truth, and this is the real sister wives story." News outlets picked it up, and her message became something bigger than just one woman's confession. It became a movement about self-worth, truth, and freedom. Undefined at night for the first time in years, Christine didn't go to bed wondering if she'd said too much. She went to bed knowing she'd finally said enough. The next morning, Christine woke to find her phone buzzing non-stop. Texts, notifications, calls. Her message had gone viral overnight. Her emotional words were everywhere. Clips of her saying, "You don't quit love when it's real. You quit pretending when it's not," had been shared millions of times. Fans called it one of the most honest moments ever seen from a reality television figure. But as her truth spread, so did the whispers. People close to the show started speaking out, some defending her, others questioning her intentions. "She's just doing this for attention," one source claimed online. Another insisted, "Christine's trying to control the narrative." Yet through all the noise, Christine stayed quiet. She didn't post, she didn't respond. Instead, she spent that day at home, cooking breakfast with her kids, laughing as if nothing outside their walls existed. That silence said more than any statement could. Later that evening, she sat on her porch, the sky turning soft shades of orange and gold. Her phone buzzed again, a message from a producer she'd worked with for over a decade. It read, "Christine, the network wants to talk. They want to film a follow-up, just one interview." She stared at the message for a long time. For years, she'd let others frame her story, cut her emotions into sound bites, and package her pain for ratings. And now they wanted more, just one interview. She typed back a single word, "Number." Then she turned off her phone. That decision was quiet but powerful. For the first time, she wasn't driven by guilt or fear of public reaction. She was choosing peace, fully and without apology. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the show's team was in crisis mode. Ratings were dipping. Discussions about the next season were turning tense, and the storyline they'd counted on, Christine's post-divorce fallout, was suddenly gone. "We need her," one executive reportedly said during a meeting. "Without Christine, we lose the emotional anchor," another voice replied. "Then maybe it's time to move on." But the truth was, no one was ready to move on. Not Kody, not the network. Not even the fans who'd built an entire emotional world around this family's drama. In a small-town coffee shop the next morning, Christine was recognized again, but this time, the tone was different. A woman in her 40s walked up, shyly holding a paper cup. "You don't know me," she said. "But after I watched your video, I finally left a relationship that was breaking me. I just wanted to say thank you." Christine's eyes softened. "You don't owe me thanks," she said quietly. "You just owed yourself freedom." The woman smiled teary-eyed. "Still, I needed to see someone do it first." When the woman left, Christine sat for a moment, realizing the ripple her truth had created. She wasn't just telling her story anymore. She was helping others find the courage to tell theirs. That evening, she opened her journal. Something she hadn't written in since before the show began. The first line she wrote was simple: "The world didn't end when I stopped performing." The next page filled faster: thoughts, feelings, fragments of memory. Little truths she'd swallowed for years poured out. She wrote about love, the kind that lifts and the kind that drains, about silence, how heavy it feels when it's forced, and how beautiful it sounds when it's chosen. About motherhood, the guilt, the joy, the pressure to hold everyone together, even when you're breaking. Each word felt like taking a stone out of her chest. Hours passed when she finally stopped writing. The sun had gone down, and the room was filled with the soft glow of a single lamp. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from one of her daughters. "Mom, I'm proud of you." That simple text broke her. She cried. Not the kind of tears that come from pain, but the kind that come from release, because for the first time she wasn't crying over loss. She was crying over growth. Days turned into weeks. The frenzy around her video began to fade, replaced by new headlines, new dramas. But Christine stayed consistent. She posted about her new life: gardening, cooking, traveling with her kids. No drama, no cryptic messages. Just moments of peace, her followers noticed. "You look so happy." One comment read, "This is the Christine we always wanted to see." She replied, "Me too." But peace, as she was learning, wasn't the absence of pain. It was the acceptance of it. Because even now, there were moments that still stung. Old memories would resurface, especially when she saw reruns playing late at night. Sometimes she'd catch herself watching for a few seconds, then turn it off. Not because she was angry, but because she didn't recognize that version of herself anymore. "I was surviving," she'd whisper to the empty room. "Now, I'm living." Behind the scenes, though, another story was brewing. Someone close to the show, an insider, had leaked that the producers were planning a reunion special. And even though Christine had said no, they were still hoping to bring her back. Even if just for a cameo, the idea was simple. They wanted to capture closure. The irony, of course, was that Christine had already found hers. But closure doesn't sell. Conflict does. So while she was moving on, the machine she'd escaped was already rebuilding the drama without her. She didn't know it yet, but the next few weeks would test everything she'd learned about peace, privacy, and power. Because soon, someone from her past was going to reach out, and this time, it wouldn't be a producer. It would be someone who'd been silent far too long. It happened on a quiet Wednesday afternoon. Christine was sitting by the window, sipping her tea, scrolling through messages from fans who were still sending her words of encouragement. Then her phone buzzed. A name she hadn't seen in years appeared on the screen. It was Janelle. For a long moment, Christine just stared at the name. They hadn't really talked since the family's fallout. There had been tension, misunderstanding, and distance. The kind that grows when too much has been said, and too much left unsaid. But something inside Christine told her to answer. "Christine." The voice was soft, cautious. "It's been a while," Christine said. A small smile forming. "Yeah," Janelle replied, her voice carrying both warmth and guilt. There was a long silence before Janelle finally said, "I watched your video. I just wanted to say, it took courage. More than I had back then." Christine didn't respond right away. The weight of the past hung heavy between them. The years of shared pain, shared silence, and shared loyalty to a system that had drained them both. You had your reasons, Christine finally said. We all did. Janelle sighed. It's strange, isn't it? How we thought being strong meant staying. Christine nodded, though Janelle couldn't see her. We were surviving, not living. That line hung there for a long time, then Janelle's tone shifted. Christine, they're trying to reach you again, aren't they? Christine's heart skipped. How do you know? Because they reached out to me, Janelle admitted. They said they wanted to do a final sit-down. A reunion of the wives' closure, they called it. Christine let out a dry laugh. Closure for them, maybe not for us. They offered money, Janelle added softly. Christine said nothing, but her silence spoke volumes. They're desperate, Janelle continued. They need something real for season 20's ending, and you walking away, that was real. They want to capture that one last time. Christine shook her head. I already lived that moment. I'm not doing it again for the camera. I know, Janelle said quietly. I just thought you should know. There was another pause. Then Christine said, thank you. It was simple, but it carried forgiveness. For the first time in a long time, they weren't ex-wives bound by pain. They were just two women who had survived the same storm. After the call, Christine felt something shift inside her. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even sadness. It was acceptance, the kind that comes when you realize the past can't hurt you anymore. But peace doesn't last long in a world built on drama. The very next morning, an article dropped online. Inside sources claim Christine and Janelle secretly reunite Sister Wives finale shocker. It spread like wildfire. Screenshots, rumors, speculation. Fans dissected every possible clue. Did they film again? Are they coming back? What's the real story? Christine didn't respond, but she saw the shift. The narrative she'd left behind was trying to pull her back in. Days later, she got an email from the network, a polite but strategic message disguised as a friendly check. Hi Christine, hope you're doing well. We'd love to have a quick chat about an opportunity that could give your fans some closure. Totally up to you, of course. She didn't reply. Instead, she forwarded it to her lawyer with a short note. No contact, no rights to likeness, no consent. That night, sitting under soft lamplight, Christine opened her journal again. She wrote, they only chase what they can't control, and I am finally uncontrollable. But what she didn't know was that behind all the noise, there was someone else watching, someone closer to the story than anyone realized. Because in the Brown family, silence never stays silent for long. A week later, she got another message. This time, not from the network, not from Janelle, but from someone she hadn't spoken to in over 2 years. Christine, it's Kody. Can we talk? Her breath caught. She didn't open it for a full minute. Just seeing his name felt like reopening a wound she thought had healed. But curiosity, that old dangerous curiosity, made her tap the screen. The message continued. I think it's time we end this the right way. Not for television, for us. She stared at it for a long time, emotions fighting inside her. He'd said things like this before, about closure, about peace, and every time, it had ended in disappointment. But something about the way he said not for television made her pause. Was it real this time? Or was this just another manipulation dressed as reconciliation? She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and replied, What do you want to say? Undefined. There was no answer right away. Undefined, just 3 dots blinking for what felt like forever. Undefined. Then came his reply. I want to apologize. The words hit her harder than she expected. Undefined, not because she believed him, but because she'd waited so long to hear them. Undefined, but could she trust them now after everything? That question would lead her down a path she thought she'd left behind forever. Undefined because forgiveness, she was about to learn, can be its own kind of trap. Christine hadn't planned to see him. In fact, she had promised herself she never would. But life, as she knew too well, doesn't always listen to promises. It was late afternoon when she pulled into the quiet corner of a small cafe on the edge of Flagstaff, a place that felt neutral, almost invisible. The kind of place where no cameras lingered and no fans came looking for autographs or confessions. She sat at a table by the window, heart beating a rhythm that felt too loud for the calm air around her. Then the door opened. Kody walked in. Time hadn't been kind or cruel. It had simply been honest. He looked older, heavier, the fire in his eyes replaced by something that resembled defeat. For the first time, she didn't feel anger or fear, just distance. He saw her, hesitated for a moment, then walked over. Christine. Her name in his voice felt strange, too familiar yet foreign. Kody, she said evenly. He sat down, unsure of how to begin. The silence between them wasn't hostile. It was thick, layered with years of pain, guilt, and things neither could fix. I wasn't sure you'd come, he finally said. I wasn't sure either, she replied, her tone cool but not unkind. He nodded, then leaned forward slightly. I just wanted to talk without everything else. No cameras, no show, no pretending. Christine studied him. You always say that after the cameras are gone. He flinched a little but didn't argue. Instead, he exhaled. You were right, he said quietly. About everything. About me, about what this family became. I thought I was leading it, but I was just trying to keep control. She didn't interrupt. He went on, voice cracking slightly. I lost them all. Not just you, even Robyn. It's not what it looks like. The house feels cold, Christine. Like everything I built was made of glass, and one by one, the pieces shattered. Christine watched him carefully. She could see the man he used to be. The dreamer, the father, the stubborn believer, but she could also see the cracks, the exhaustion, the emptiness that comes when you've run out of people to blame. I'm sorry, he said simply. Not just for how it ended, for how I made you feel small when you were the one holding everything together. The words hung in the air. She didn't expect them, didn't trust them, but part of her wanted to. Because sometimes forgiveness isn't about the person asking. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of the memory. It took me a long time to stop waiting for that, she said softly. But I'm glad you said it. He nodded slowly. I don't expect forgiveness. Good, she said, and a small smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Because it's not yours to ask for anymore. He looked confused. What do you mean? I already gave it to myself, she said. For a moment he just stared at her, maybe realizing that the woman sitting before him wasn't the same Christine who once fought to be heard in his world. This Christine had built her own. You look happy, he said quietly. I am, she replied. For the first time, I'm not fighting anyone to be me. He nodded again, this time with a hint of respect. I'm glad, really. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was final. It felt like both of them finally understood that closure doesn't always come with reconciliation. Sometimes it comes with release. But before he could stand, Kody added something that caught her off guard. They're going to spin this, he said. You know that, right? The cameras caught me leaving the house this morning. They'll make it look like something it's not. Christine sighed. They always do. You could stop them, he said, a flicker of desperation in his eyes. Come back, just for one scene, one final talk. You'd get to tell your truth, on camera this time. Christine shook her head. No, Kody. My truth isn't for their script. He leaned back, defeated. They'll say what they want. Let them, she said firmly. Because I don't live there anymore. He looked at her for a long time, searching for something he couldn't find. Maybe he thought she'd waver. Maybe he wanted to believe the show still had some power over her. But Christine had outgrown that stage, literally and emotionally. Goodbye. Kody, she said, standing. He didn't stop her. She walked out into the cool evening air, feeling the last of her old life lift off her shoulders.